The summer of 1940. For the people of Great Britain, it was the summer of fear. Night after night, the mournful wail of the air raid siren would sound across the island, a prelude to the terrifying drone of German bombers. The Luftwaffe, Adolf, Hitler's seemingly invincible air force, had begun its relentless nocturnal assault, a campaign of terror that would come to be known as the Blitz. In the darkness, Britain was vulnerable. Anti-aircraft guns fired blindly into the vast black sky, their shells exploding in brief, hopeful flashes that rarely found their mark. The Royal Air Force's daytime heroes, the Spitfires and Hurricanes, were almost completely helpless at night. Their pilots, blinded by the darkness, could fly circles just a few hundred yards from a bomber and never even know it was there. Britain's defenses were crippled by a simple, fundamental problem. You can't shoot what you can't see, but in secret. Laboratories and workshops, a group of Britain's brightest minds were working on a miracle. A new, almost magical technology that promised to give Britain's pilots a new kind of sight. It was called radio direction finding, or RDF. We know it today as radar. While large ground-based radar stations could warn of approaching raids, the true challenge was making the technology small enough, light enough, and powerful enough to fit inside the nose of an aircraft. This was Airborne Interception Radar, or AI. The aircraft chosen for this revolutionary experiment was not a sleek, purpose-built fighter. It was the Bristol Blenheim, a light twin-engine bomber that was already verging on obsolescence. Converted for the night-fighting role, it was designated the Mk.INF. It was a compromise, a stopgap measure, but it was all they had. Inside its cramped fuselage, 3 men would have to work in perfect harmony: a pilot, a navigator, and a new kind of airman, the radar operator. Their lives and the defense of the night sky would depend on a flickering green line on a primitive cathode ray screen. Exactly 85 years ago, on the night of July 22, 23, 1940, a landmark event in the history of aerial warfare occurred. A British Bristol Blenheim Mk.INF, flown by pilot officer Geoffrey Ashfield, took off from RAF Tangmere. In the back, the radar operator, Sergeant C. Leyland, stared intently at his screen, waiting for the telltale blip that would signal an intruder in their sector. For hours, the patrol was a monotonous drone of engines in the blackness. Then, a ghost appeared on the screen. The radar operator spotted a blip when the distance to the enemy was approximately 5 kilometers. His voice, calm but urgent, crackled over the intercom. Giving targeting instructions to the pilot, he began the hunt, guiding the interceptor through the 3-dimensional darkness. Turn 10 degrees port, steady. Target ahead, slightly above. He guided the Blenheim to a 600-meter range, the absolute edge of human perception. From that distance, pilot officer Ashfield strained his eyes, peering into the void until he saw it. The faint, rhythmic glow of engine exhaust flashes and the dim lights of a cockpit. The ghost on the screen was real. Remaining undetected, he skillfully closed the distance to a mere 120 meters. From such a short range, in the dead of night, it was difficult to miss. Ashfield squeezed the trigger. Machine gun fire ripped apart the wing and fuselage of the German aircraft. It plunged steeply, a trail of fire in the night sky, and crashed on a beach near the English Channel. None of the crew survived. An examination of the wreckage later revealed it to be a twin-engine Dornier 17 bomber. For the first time in history, an enemy plane had been successfully hunted and destroyed at night using airborne radar. This was an impressive, groundbreaking success, a proof of concept that would change warfare forever. But for the men flying the Blenheims, it proved to be a frustrating and often fatal false dawn. The victory of July 22nd was the only one for the radar-equipped Blenheims for the rest of the year. They had spotted German aircraft 28 more times at night, but failed to shoot down a single one. The Blenheim's AI Mk.III radar was a marvel, but it was deeply flawed. Its minimum detection range was over half a kilometer. The radar could guide the pilot close, but not close enough. At this range, pilots were often unable to spot the enemy aircraft in the total darkness, the bombers slipping away like phantoms. The radar operator could see the blip on his screen, tantalizingly close, but the pilot could see nothing but empty sky. Furthermore, the Blenheim's offensive armament was tragically weak. As a converted light bomber, it carried its 4 rifle-caliber machine guns in a removable ventral pod, like an afterthought. Even if the pilot managed to spot an enemy, fire, and score a hit, the firepower was often insufficient to inflict fatal damage against the robustly built German bombers. The bullets would simply bounce off or cause minor damage. Therefore, these early radar fighters played almost no role in the soon-to-be-ignited airborne Battle of Britain, which would be fought and won in the daylight. The Blenheim was a flawed hero, a pioneer that pointed the way to the future but couldn't quite reach it. But the lessons learned in its cramped, vibrating fuselage were invaluable. The tactics developed by its brave crews, the understanding of the radar's limitations, all paved the way for what was to come. However, by the fall of that year, a more advanced night interceptor from the same company, the Bristol Beaufighter, entered production. It was a beast of an aircraft, purpose-built for the dark, heavily armed with 4 rapid-fire 20mm cannons that could tear a bomber apart with a single burst, and equipped with an improved AI Mk.IV radar that had a much shorter minimum range. The Beaufighter was the true hunter Britain needed. On the night of November 17, 1940, a Beaufighter crew achieved its first successful radar interception, shooting down a Junkers 88 bomber. The age of the Blenheim was over. The age of the true night hunter had begun, but that's another story.